Minority Leader Dean Skelos is joining us from Hofstra University in Hempstead. Senator, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
It's good to see you. So some news that came out from last night's event at the Log Cabins Republicans fundraiser. You said that you thought that the gay marriage bill should come back to the floor for a vote if the Republicans won back the majority. Now, that's not a pledge from you, but it's something you would bring to the conference.
Well, I would bring it to the conference, and I think it's critically important that Albany changes the ways of the past, whether under Republican or Democrat rule, where leaders would bottle up legislation and not allow it to come to a vote. And I think this is one of the issues that I think should be voted upon. People vote their conscience and vote up and down.
So in other words, if you do manage to take back the Senate, and we should note that it's just 2 seats, a very slim margin at this point that separates the majority in the Democratic hands from the Republicans taking back the chamber, you would pledge then to no longer bottle up legislation if you didn't know that it was definitely going to pass one way or the other?
No. I agree with you. You know, not every piece of legislation can come out to the floor. But I think this is an example of a piece of legislation that should come out to the floor for a vote, up or down, and let people see how you're voting on the issue.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Why this piece of legislation and not just a blanket saying if it makes it out of committee, then it definitely should come to the floor regardless of what the bill is?
No, I think an awful lot of bills that will happen with. But again, this is something I want to discuss with the conference, but it is going to be my recommendation. That certain pieces of legislation do come up for a vote.
In terms of, you've said that this would be a conscience vote. Now, that's what you said also that last time that this came to the floor, and all 30 members of your conference voted no. So is there some reason that you think that any one of them, and not yourself, because I know that you still are opposed, would vote yes?
Right. I have not polled the membership. I was asked last evening if I thought that this was the type of bill that should come to the floor for a vote, up or down. And I said yes, and that's a simple answer. The answer is I believe it's the type of bill that should come out and let people vote their conscience.
But there's no particular reason why you think anything has changed among the members of your conference per se?
I have not talked to them, and who knows?
So the reason that we're talking about this issue again is because, of course, Carl Palladino made some rather inflammatory remarks over the weekend, and he has since apologized for them. But he said that he still continues to support the sentiment of what he said, although he says his wording was wrong. Did you think that his wording needed to be denounced? Because the Democrats are calling for Republican opponents all across the board to separate themselves from Carl Palladino.
Well, I mean, the answer is very simple. I said that the language was inappropriate, it was harsh, it was insensitive, and he's apologized for, you know, for what he said. Now, I would be concerned if I were voters that Eric Schneiderman said that Reverend Sharpton's going to have an annex to his Attorney General's office if he's elected. But really what it comes down to, Liz, is we should be discussing the gubernatorial candidates and certainly the state Senate Assembly candidates. We should be talking about how are we going to create jobs in New York State, how are we going to cut taxes in New York State, and how are we going to cut spending. That's what the debate should be about. And hopefully that's where it will turn rather than, you know, how somebody says something or what they say.
Do you think
Democrats...
Do you think Carl Palladino has the ability to remain on message? Because even he would say and has said that he's managed to step on his message. Now he's trying to be more disciplined, but do you think he has the discipline to maintain the message that you're talking about right here?
Well, I hope he does. I mean, today he threw out a suggestion that the MTA, which is totally dysfunctional and ripping off people, not responsible to anybody but themselves, that it be considered that they become a department of the state and that the governor has direct control over them. That way there would be accountability. Now, I don't know if you can do it fiscally or not, but that's the type of suggestion that we should be talking about to protect ratepayers, to not have the necessity of payroll taxes, which are crippling downstate. So I think that's an appropriate start. Hopefully he stays on the economic message.
You know, at one point you said, in fact, you were actually the first Republican on primary night to congratulate him, and you and Senator Libous, who is the head of the political arm for the Senate Republicans, have said that Carl Palladino is actually going to help the Senate win back the majority. Since then, we have seen some of the candidates, including Greg Ball, the assemblyman who is running down in the Hudson Valley, seek to distance himself from Palladino. Also, two statewide contenders, Harry Wilson and Dan Donovan, have refused to endorse him. Do you still believe that he is actually going to be more of a help than a hindrance in your quest to win back the chamber?
You know, I think if he gets back to message, he's certainly very popular in the western part of the state, where we're going to win the old Skelos seat with Jack Quinn, and we're going to pick up other seats. But the bottom line is the voter is going to separate out the races. And they know the Democrats, all Democrat control with the Senate. They raised taxes by $14 billion. They raised spending by $14 billion. And they eliminated all economic or suspended all economic development programs for private sector job creation. So those are the issues that are going to resonate in the Senate races, and that's why we're going to win back the majority.
You know, the Democrats have tried, at least in one race, to turn that message back on you, noting that, for example, Jim Alisi, and he's up in the Rochester area, prior to this discipline that the Republicans were able to exhibit in the recent budget votes, had been voting yes when the Republicans were in the majority for budgets that actually increased spending and increased taxes.
We cut, when Governor Pataki came into office, in the years he was in office, we cut taxes by cumulative $165 billion. What the Democrats are trying to do is, for example, if Chautauqua County increases their sales tax, they're trying to blame it on the Senate Republicans. And I think that's a non-starter. People know better than that. We cut taxes. We cut corporate taxes by $33 billion. They're the ones that eliminated the star rebate check for senior citizens. They're the ones that instituted a payroll tax, 124 taxes and fees, average of $5,000 a family of four in the 2 years that they've been in power.
Now, you know, you actually now are seeing some outside interests start to put some serious money into this Senate battle. And one is a national PAC that former Congressman Tom Reynolds is the vice chair of, and he is going to, my understanding, this PAC is going to spend upwards of $1 million. I know it's supposed to be an independent expenditure. Have you spoken to him at all about that?
I've seen him at an event, but as you know, by law, you cannot coordinate. So I am not discussing what he's doing.
And in addition, you've the real estate board down in New York City is getting involved. I mean, are you concerned that these outside interests are going to be able to drive the agenda? Should, for example, let's argue that the Republicans win back the chamber, then you have these interests that put in all of this money trying to dictate, for example, redistricting, which you have signed off on, your entire conference has, in a nonpartisan pledge to former Mayor Ed Koch to change the way the process occurs.
Well, I think there should be nonpartisan redistricting. So far, the only person that hasn't signed on to it has been Shelley Silver. And I think John Sampson, after a month or so of getting heat from the public, decided to do it also.
But you are saying that you believe, if you manage to take back the Senate, that you will go ahead with some form of nonpartisan redistricting reform, and that the way that the lines have been drawn before, no matter what the congressional interests want, because of course they're going to lobby you very hard, you are going to take politics out of it.
Well, we're going to try to. Again, you know, you have to hear from Shelley Silver on that.
Also, I wanted to ask you, just in parting, what's going to happen if the Senate deadlocks? I mean, if it's at 31-31, what do you envision happening? Have you given thought to that?
I don't believe it's going to happen. If it happens, you have to manage under those circumstances. And, you know, certainly we're prepared to govern. We saw the dysfunction and the disorder and the taxes and spending under all Democrat rule. And I think the public are going to move away from that. We're going to win a comfortable majority. But
let's argue, just argue with me for 1 minute. Would you believe that there would be room for maybe a power sharing agreement with the Democrats if the chamber got deadlocked? Because after New Yorkers saw what happened last summer in this month-long stalemate because of the coup, I don't think people have the stomach anymore to see that again.
Well, I agree, and we would have to, you know, share power, if you want to call it that. But remember, we tried to be involved in the last 2 years, and the Democrats, Patterson Silver and Malcolm Smith, said we don't need Republicans in negotiations because everything's Democrat. That's unfortunate.
Do you believe that the lieutenant governor, whoever that person might be, would actually have the power to break a tie?
I think on procedural matters, but not on substantive matters.
So it's possible that we actually could see another one of those dysfunctional stalemates for a while until everybody worked their stuff out.
Yeah, that's not what I want, and I think, again, looking at our polling, looking at what people are saying in the polls, they want to have the Senate Republican again, so there can be balance, that upstate can be protected, that not every single leader in the Senate, Assembly, or governorship are all from New York City. If Andrew Cuomo wins. Well,
we shall see, actually. Will you be able to work with Andrew Cuomo, just in parting, because he's getting involved very much now with the Senate Democrats, and if he is not successful in keeping the chamber in Democratic hands, he's going to have to work with you.
Well, you know, that's part of governing, and certainly we would work with him. Remember when his father was governor, Republican Senate, we worked with him. We had agreements, we had disagreements, but in the end, you have to manage and govern.
Well, also, Eliot Spitzer's efforts to flip the chamber really soured his relationship with Joe Bruno and sowed the seeds for the Troopergate scandal, did it not?
Well, it did, but I'm hopeful that Andrew Cuomo will understand that he needs balance. He needs somebody a body that will look to cut taxes and cut spending, as he has indicated he would do if elected, and certainly he would need a partner. Palladino would need a partner against the Assembly Democrats and Shelley Silver, who just love to tax and spend.
Have you spoken to him recently, Andrew Cuomo?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I want to thank you very much, Dean Skelos. It's always great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Dean.
Hi.
Hey, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty there. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Are we done? So I can